Thanks, Amy. To be for Santa Fe High School, need you to stay school shooting. Have an active shooter, several people down.
We also need the flight for an officer down.
10-4, we got him.
60704, we're coming out the front doors. West of the EPA.
Find to the northwest corner of the complex. We need to get coverage on the outside. We believe he's barricaded inside.
Clear. Swap being deployed.
Active shooter, status contained. We need SWAT. He's actually shooting. He's in the art room. We got shots fired right now, guys. We need all of you.
Two questions about this, and maybe you can clear this up. How was the gunman able to get into the school if the resource officer had engaged with him but no gunfire was exchanged? How did he get in?
How was the gunman able to get in if he was engaged by the resource officer prior to getting in the building? I'm repeating the question so you don't get distracted. How did he get into school? That's what was asked. Listen to the answer.
With him, but no gunfire was exchanged. How did he get in?
Yeah, so it started at his home. You know, he tragically shoots his grandmother, and then he gets in a vehicle and he...
It started at his home. How was he able to get in the building after being engaged with a resource officer prior? The response is, it started at his home. The way he was able to get past the resource officer, according to this guy, is something that started at his home. The only logical reason I can imagine why he would completely deflect from the question entirely and go to something that happened way before is because he needs time to come up with some BS answer to cover up certain details that he doesn't want to discuss. Otherwise, he would simply answer the question, either in detail or give a vague answer for multiple reasons. But the fact that he didn't even approach it at all, he completely exits from this timeline and goes to something that happened before he even got to the school, is a little bit of a red flag.
Drives to the school. Shoots his grandmother, and then he gets in a vehicle and he drives to the school. It's less than a mile away, so it's really right around the corner. And as he comes to the school...
Why is he talking about before and he drives to school and the distance that it is and it's right around the corner? Why are we getting all these details that got nothing to do with the question?
He wrecks. He kind of goes into this ditch, and it's when he got into that ditch is when law enforcement was called and engaged. You know, so
when he got into the ditch is when law enforcement was called and engaged. What the hell does that mean?
So that's part of the initial contact. It was no firing that I understand. He actually enters through the back of one of the buildings through the...
Now he's completely skipped over the core of the question. How did he get into the school if there was a resource officer there? He took us back to the grandmother's house, talked about the drive and how it's around the corner, talked about the crash of the vehicle, talked about very vaguely, engaged with officers. How many, engaged in what way, we don't get any detail. Next thing you know, boop, let's skip to he's in the building. But wait a minute, the whole point was, how did he get to that point? Why are you skipping over the detail of what happened before that? If you don't know, say you don't know. If you don't want to give clear answers, then give a vague answer. Otherwise, answer the goddamn question. This is what somebody does when they have something to hide.
Malone says at 11:30 a.m., someone called 911 to report that there was a crash and a man with a gun.
He sees two witnesses at the funeral home across the street. He engages and fires towards them. He continues walking towards the school. He climbs a fence. Now he's in the parking lot shooting at the school.
Escalon says at 11:40 a.m., the shooter walked into the west side of Robb Elementary.
He walks 20 feet, 30 feet. He makes a right. He walks into the hallway. He makes a right.
The more we learn, the more this story keeps changing and it keeps getting worse and worse. So now we know shots were fired before he even got to the school. Shots were fired after the crash, which would have made a lot of noise, drawn a lot of attention to himself, and there's officers on campus. Then he's firing shots at the funeral home. Again, a lot of noise, drawing the attention of the multiple officers on campus. But yet, with all of these opportunities for him to be engaged and stopped, he's somehow able to walk across to the school parking lot and continue firing, and then proceed to simply waltz into the building. How exactly did that happen?
The teacher parking lot, if you will. He immediately enters one room, and then essentially that's when the police, the law enforcement officer, because it's not just police officers, it's.
And what were the officers doing as he's opening the door and entering the building and walking down the hall? What were the officers doing at that time?
It's sheriffs, it's border patrol agents. I mean, everybody came together. People.
Once he started firing shots in the classroom, bang, 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 I'm sure people outside were hearing this. What were the officers doing at that time? Are we to believe that he was firing shots at the officers and killing the kids at the same time? He's some kind of Rambo, bam, bam, kill 2 kids, bam, 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 cover fire at the officers, bam, bam, kill 2 more kids, bam, 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 cover fire. And then when he turns to kill the kids, that's not an opportunity for the officers to shoot him. Like, what's really going on? Did we have officers on scene hearing the shots fired and they're just outside like, oh my goodness, oh, we got to get SWAT team here right away? You guys realize that even in a standoff situation, if the suspect starts firing, usually they breach. Now, I don't know all the police protocols, so I don't know if even in that situation they would wait for backup. I know in general they would wait for backup. If there's like a barricade situation, I'm pretty sure there's a protocol, wait for backup. But that goes out the window when you start hearing shots fired. Right? In fact, if you're the criminal that's holed up in some place with some people that you kidnapped, the quickest way to get killed is for you to be firing shots in there. Even if you're not killing the people, the cops hearing you firing in there, they're probably going to come in. So why didn't that happen here? A single 18-year-old kid. Dishonest actors will focus on that he didn't have body armor, but I believe it's possible he looked like he had body armor, so they wouldn't have known that. So the fact that he didn't have body armor wouldn't really be relevant to the officers because it's not going to affect their decisions, right? They're not going to do things based on him not having body armor if he looks like he has it, right? They're going to act as if he has body armor. But a single kid against multiple armed officers, able to go in the door, walk down the hall, fire at least 20 shots. Where were the officers when the shots were being fired? That's the most important question I want to know. We do need to know details about the first engagement. How did he get in the first place? If things went down the way they should have went down, either he would have died before he entered or the resource officer would have died. Somebody would have died. At a minimum, shots would have been fired. So we need to know how he got in the first place, the question that this guy dodged. And we need to know what were the officers doing when the shots were being fired. I shouldn't say we don't need to know. Lesser do I want to know about what the officers were doing when no shots were fired and he was in the classroom. I get that. Right? I get the idea of you need to assess the situation and you don't know where he is and blah, 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 blah. But once he starts firing shots, right? Bam, bam, bam. I want to know where the officers were. I hear up to 5 of them on campus. I want to know where the officers were when he was firing the shots. I want to know, did anyone pull an alarm to notify the whole school of what was going on? What's their protocol? Did the minute he entered that building, someone said, stop, 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 and then they ran at him, or I'm making this up. I don't know how it went down, but it was like, stop, stop, stop. He runs in the door. Did somebody trigger some alarm? I'm sure with all the shooting, schools have drills that they do, and there must be some kind of protocol. Was an alarm set off so the teachers knew to do their thing, lock the doors and blah, 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 blah? Or was he allowed not only to walk in the door, but walk down the hall without any warning to the teachers, walk into a classroom and slaughter those kids and the teachers? That's what I want to know. But you're not going to get those answers from this guy. You tell me why.
When the police, the law enforcement officer, because it's not just police officers, it's sheriffs, it's border patrol agents. I mean, everybody came together. People are not even in this county, and they basically.
Why is he talking about this? Oh, they didn't mean officer and this officer and everybody came together. And it's not that we don't care. We want to know how the kid got in the building. That's the question being asked. And you're giving all these extra, the ditch and the mother and this around the block and everybody came together. Why are you ducking and diving? What do you have to hide?
Cornered him into one room. There are hundreds of children in that school. Part of the story, there's a lieutenant named Javier Martinez, engages this assailant. He takes fire. He actually was wounded. You know, it's tragic to see so many children be murdered, but this could have been a whole lot.
Notice how every time they talk about the officers, they say wounded or injured. I've never heard them say the word shot, but I know most people listening will assume these officers were shot and therefore they were engaging with this suspect, right? They put their lives in danger to save these kids and they got shot as a result. That is what the average person will hear when you talk about them getting injured. But then we hear that the injuries are not life-threatening. I even heard, I think Governor Abbott or somebody said that they'll be recovered in a number of days. So it seems like it's really, really minor injuries. And if I were to take a wild guess, I think it's the kind of injuries that happen when you're in a emergency situation and you're running and maybe you fall down and you scratch yourself, or you duck around the corner and bump your elbow, or you hit your head on something. Minor cuts and scratches and bruises. I don't know if that's what happened, but it sure as hell sounds like that's the case. But they want to paint a different narrative. At least that's what it sounds like.
Worse, people like Javier Martinez and Chief Arredondo, they saved hundreds of lives. So that's where you see him get pinned in.
Well,
They saved hundreds of lives, so that's where you see them get pinned in. What? That's where you see them get pinned in. What? What is he even saying? To a pro-police person, this is like, thin blue line, yeah, this is it. Emotions. Not even comprehending that he's not saying anything. Right? He's just throwing out these vague ideas. Some kind of battle and they got injured and pinned in and that's where they got pinned in. What? Look at even this guy's face. Look at his face. He's like, what? What is this bullshit that you're telling me right now?
Clear, he's pinned down or pinned in a classroom where he was slaughtering kids, right? I mean, is that what you mean by pinned down?
I understand that he went in that
Not at all suspicious.
classroom and he begins to fire. He begins to murder people, starting with that wonderful teacher that was defending her students, and he doesn't stop. The police officer actually engages him. Javier Martinez engages him. He kind of takes fire through the door, and then it stops, and he barricades himself in. That's where there's kind of a lull in the action. All of it, I understand, lasted about an hour, but this is where there's kind of a 30
lull in the action. The action.
minute lull. They feel as if they got him barricaded in. The rest of the students in the school are now leaving. You know, they're trying to get people out to safety, and this assailant is barricaded in. It's moments later or minutes later when they breach it, and then ultimately a Border Patrol agent is the one that neutralizes this assailant.
All right. It still seems like a lot of
Neutralizes.
time that the police were outside the classroom and the shooter was inside the classroom where they were.
tasing and arresting parents. He's got the taser out, right? Tasing and arresting parents who possibly kids are being slaughtered in a school where it looks like the police didn't go in and protect them. And I'm pretty sure you're not going to see a lot of outrage on the right, certainly not in right-wing media. Certainly nothing close to the outrage you saw about the FBI potentially investigating parents who are just regular citizens. They're parents who rape kids and who do robberies and who are gang members and who do all kinds of fraud and criminal activity, right? So being a parent doesn't make you somehow a saint. But the same people who were outraged about the idea of the FBI investigating parents who might be giving death threats to teachers, such that some of these workers actually had to move because they were such in fear of their lives. Things being sent to their homes, people going to their homes, being doxxed, being threatened. But the idea that the FBI might be simply investigating parents who might be conducting domestic terrorist type of activities, right? Using violence for political means, that is the definition of terrorism. The same people who are outraged about that, will they be outraged about parents being tased and arrested while potentially their children are slaughtered, not being protected by the police? Police spending their time against these precious parents who, of course, don't commit crimes. Right? So the idea of them being investigated is ridiculous, but it's okay for them to be arrested and tased in this situation. Right? Tribalism.
Kids out. Can you talk about that?
Right. So what we do know, Vanessa, right now that there was some police officers, families trying to get their children out of the school because it was an active shooter situation right now. It's a terrible situation right now. And of course, just as we mentioned, the loss of life, it's just terrible. It's a terrible tragedy right now that took place. But again, we got to keep acknowledging those brave men and women that actually were there on scene that met this suspect. And of course, we know that they were met with gunfire. Some of them were shot. But
as details unfold about what really happened, I want you guys to remember this video. Bookmark this video. I want you to remember this video where this man just claimed, he's the first one that said this, that police officers were shot. Everyone else is saying injured, right? They don't say what kind of injuries, what happened. They just say injured. Then the Texas governor or whatever said, you know, the injuries will heal in a matter of days. So AKA minor injuries. He just said shot. I Googled online. I don't see any reports of police officers being shot. I'm not saying that police officers were not shot. I'm saying I really doubt that that is the case. I think there's a reason why they're being vague about this injuries, injured. And this guy just took it a step further. Rather than imply they were shot, he actually said that word, and he said it very, and he quickly moved on to something else, right? So, I don't know, man. This whole thing looks mighty shady. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Love to hear your thoughts on what you think is really happening here. I really do not trust the story of the police officers. A lot of red flags seem to indicate that they failed at their jobs and that many of these kids could have perhaps been saved if the police officers actually did their jobs. I wasn't there. We have to wait and see what happens, but I am free to have my opinion based on what we know so far. And it's not just one detail, it's not just two details, it's not just three details. Multiple details are leading to a pattern which seems to indicate a failure of law enforcement. Only time will tell, but I will be paying close attention to any attempts to delay releasing of body cams, delaying releases of footage, Not allowing the press to have access to certain information, not allowing certain people to talk about this thing. Don't talk to the police. Don't any attempts to silence people and keep information from the public. I would pay very close attention for any signs of that activity. That would just be more damning evidence of what I believe is actually happening here. Time will tell, but I say to you, if I were you, I would pay close attention. If you enjoyed this video, click on the like button, subscribe. This is a nonpartisan channel. If you're looking for a bunch of anti-left-wing videos, this is not for you. Looking for a bunch of anti-right-wing videos, this is not for you. If you're looking for reality, calling out corruption wherever it is, whether it's left or right, you're looking to unplug from the echo chamber, I invite you to join us here on the Debate Me channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the likes. And everyone be safe.